Good morning. Thank you so much for joining in today. For today's class, let's start off lying down comfortably on our back. And feel free to grab a block or cushion or two or anything that will make your lying down position feel a bit more comfortable. Just let yourself settle into a place that offers you stillness. Once you found that place, you're feeling ready, go ahead and close the eyes. Just taking these first few moments as you settle into your body to check in with your breathing. Just letting your awareness travel from head to toe. Looking for any information, any signals that your body might be giving you in this moment. And sometimes the signals that your body gives you can be quite obvious in the form of tension, in the form of tightness. And sometimes those signals can be a bit more subtle. As you continue to explore, allowing your awareness to drop out of the head, make its way down into your body. Feeling the subtle movements that happen with each breath, the expansion and the contraction. Letting go of the morning that you've had so far. Letting go of the day ahead. And stepping into the space where you find yourself currently. Stepping into that room. And stepping onto your mat. And stepping into your body. And checking in with how it feels to be inside your body in this moment. Noticing your energy level. Noticing access you have to your body. All the while continuing to breathe. breathing with a rhythm that feels natural. Maybe taking the time to think of the reason that you're here on your mat. What is it that inspired you to take the time out of your day and practice? And maybe we turn that reason to be here into an intention for your practice. And intention that will guide your practice today. Perhaps serve as an anchor. Setting and repeating that intention to yourself. Start to move the fingers, the toes, the ankles and wrists. We'll stretch the arms up overhead as you bring your feet together, pointing your toes, reaching the fingers and toes in opposite directions. As you breathe in, feel the arch in your lower back, lifting your spine off the mat. And as you breathe out, feel the lower back pressing down into the mat as you pull the belly button down towards your spine. Continue breathing like this. Inhale to arch and lift the lower back off the mat. And exhale to press the entire spine firmly down onto the mat. The next time you find yourself with your lower back pressed down onto the mat, let's pause here. On the next breath in, we're going to lift the right leg, bend the knee, bring the fingers together around the shin. We're going to flex both ankle and toes. And for the next little bit, really looking to keep our sit bones, our lower back and shoulders pressed down onto the mat. The head stays down as well, and keeping the grounding leg strong and rooted. Start to pull the right knee in towards your chest. With every exhale, pulling that knee a little bit closer. Breathing into the hip flexors, looking to create space there. Bringing your knee into deep flexion and bringing your hip into deep flexion as well. And from here, we're going to take the knee into the left hand, pull it across the body as you stretch your right arm beside you. You can continue looking up or maybe looking towards your outstretched right hand as you pull that knee closer to the ground beside you. Feeling your right sit bone lifting and stacking over the left while your shoulders stay grounded on the mat. As you come into your supine twist, breathing down towards your sides, your glute muscles, all the way down into the hip. And making sure the shoulders stay grounded so the twist can be effective. On the next breath in, we'll pull that right knee back up to center, taking the knee into the right hand this time, allowing the knee to lower down to the side, placing your left hand on top of the left hip flexor, applying downward pressure there to keep the sit bones from lifting off now. As you bring that right knee down to the ground beside you, you can use your right hand underneath for support or on top for a little bit of weight. Feeling that stretch into your right hip. Could be the groin, the glutes. Breathing into the stretch. Again, noticing if your left sit bone starts to want to lift off, just press it back down. But breathing all the way down into your hip socket. The next breath in, we'll pull that knee back to center. And we're going to keep that knee bent and plant the foot down on the mat. Let's have the knee tracking over the ankle, arms resting beside the body with your palms down. Let's touch the right heel with your right fingertips. From here, we're going to plant that right foot down, push down through your right foot, pointing into the left toes. We're going to lift the left leg, lift the hips and the spine off at the same time, coming into a one-legged bridge. As you push down through that grounding leg, lift the hips as high as you can, keeping your pelvis level and keeping that left knee level as well. Pressing down through the back of the head and shoulders. Feel the strength in that grounding leg. Feel the strength in your core here as well, as you extend your tailbone up and forward. Maintain that strong point in your left toes, not letting any energy leak happen throughout that leg. Feel the leg connected to the hip, connected to your midsection, the bridge. Breathing here, 3, 2, and 1. Releasing down at the exhale. As that leg comes down, extend the right leg up towards the ceiling, bringing the hands together around the back of the thigh, flexing both ankle and toes, keeping that left leg pressing down onto the mat as you pull that right thigh towards your chest. Feel the toes moving closer to the wall behind you, keeping the lower back pressing down onto the mat. And really trying to pull the toes down towards your face. Feel that stretch all the way through the back of the leg, from the sit bone to the knee, from the knee to the heel. Start to ease out of the stretch. And releasing your right leg back down onto the mat. Let's take the feet mat width distance. We're going to do a quick rotation of the hips. Rotating your hips internally and externally. You're rotating the thigh bones, your femur. As you rotate, you might feel some of the muscles around the hip flexors especially feel like they're getting a little bit of a stretch here, and that's what we want, just loosening up the muscles around the joints, creating some space. And let's bring the legs to neutral, walk them closer to each other again. And the next breath in, we pick up the left leg, bend the knee, bring the fingers together around the shin, flexing both ankle and toes. Right leg is grounded and strong, lower back pressing down onto the mat, and shoulders and head down as well. As you feel your left thigh coming into the chest, pulling the knee a little closer with every exhale. Nice and easy here. There's no strain, not forcing your body into a shape that feels uncomfortable, feels painful. We're just easing ourselves into the stretch. From here, bring the knee back a little bit. We're going to take the knee into the right hand, pull it across the body over to the right side as you stretch your left arm beside you, finding your drishti, your point of focus, and letting that left sit bone come to stack over the right, breathing into the twist. Allowing the knee to come as close to the ground or maybe even onto the ground, so that your hips are facing off to the side while your chest and shoulders remain neutral. The twist is happening in the lower part of the spine, the lumbar spine. On the next breath in, we'll pull the knee back to center. As both of your sit bones make contact with the mat, take the knee into the left hand, placing the right hand on top of the right hip flexor, applying downward pressure there as your hip opens out to the side. Flexing your right ankle and toes. Finding yourself a stretch that feels accessible, yet challenging. And a good way to gauge accessible and challenging is to check in with your breath. If you're able to breathe comfortably, still feel a stretch, that's what we want. We never want to be holding our breath. We never want to feel like our face muscles are really tensed up or we're scrunching up our face. On the next breath in, we pull the knee back to center. Keeping the knee bent, we're going to plant the foot down onto the mat. Arms resting beside the body, left fingers touch the left heel. Finding strength in that grounding leg, we're going to point the right toes as you pick up the leg, pick up the hips, and pick the spine off the mat at the same time. One-legged bridge. And really focusing on the muscles that are engaging in the grounding leg here. So your hamstrings, your glute muscles, as well as the quads are all really working here to not only lift the hips, but also to keep them stable, to keep your pelvis from moving. Keep pressing down through your head and shoulders as well, your spine extending in the same direction that your toes are pointing, the right toes. Keep feeling your right leg connected to the hip, pointing through the toes. See if you can lift the hips a little bit higher, breathing here, 3, 2, and 1. Easing your spine and seat down onto the mat as the right leg comes down. Extending the left leg up towards the ceiling, hands come together around the back of the thigh. Flexing both ankle and toes, start to pull the left thigh towards your chest. At the same time, you're pushing away from the heel. So finding a little bit of counter resistance here. Push and pull to deepen the stretch. And then easing your way out, extending your left leg onto the mat. We're going to take the feet mat width distance one more time and rotating your thigh bones. Beautiful. Let's walk the feet together from here. I'm going to bend both knees, plant the feet on the mat for a moment. Keeping your lower back pressed into the mat, let's bring the hands together on the back of the thighs. As you lift the knees up into your chest, wrap the arms around the shins, tuck into a tight ball, really squeezing yourself into as tight a ball as you can, bringing the nose between your knees. And then from here, we bring the hands to the crease between calf and thigh muscles, start to rock back and forth. As you feel yourself picking up momentum, come to find stillness in Navasana, boat pose, balancing on your sit bones, pointing through your toes. Feel free to extend the arms forward if you want to here as you lift the chest, activating through the midsection, squeezing your knees and your chest closer together. Breathing here, looking to straighten the legs as well if you want to. Holding for 3, 2, and 1. We bend the knees, plant the feet down, and we turn over onto our hands and knees, coming into tabletop. Spreading your fingers, palms are flat, shoulders over the wrists, hips over knees. Let's have the toes tucked under.
On the next breath in, we're going to arch into the low back. Lift the chest, looking forward, shoulders pulling away from the ears. And as you exhale, tucking your tailbone down towards the mat as you round into your spine, push the floor away, chin to your chest. Continue moving. Inhale to your back bend. Exhale to a rounded back. Cat and cow is spinal flexion and extension. And what we did before was spinal rotation. These are some of the movements that you want to try to do for your spine every single day. If you can rotate your spine, if you can find some extension and flexion, and then your spine moves in one more way, and we'll get to that in just a few moments. Let's come to find neutral. Toes are tucked under, shoulders over wrists. Now we're going to try to maintain this shape as closely as we can. As you push into your toes, lift the knees off the mat just a few inches, coming into an elevated tabletop. Now from here, we're going to take small steps back and forth onto the mat. So bear crawling your way back and forth on your mat. But looking to keep your shoulders and your pelvis as level as possible. So trying to avoid having your hips rotate and really maintaining a strong core, a strong and stable pelvis as you go back and forth. Knees just hovering a few inches over the mat. The steps don't have to be exaggerated in any way, just controlled back and forth. And let's come back to the neutral center point on the mat. Nicely done. Beautiful. Toes are tucked under. From here, we're going to lower down onto our forearms. And I really want to bring a stretch here into the upper back and rhomboid area. So what we're going to do is we're going to come onto our forearms. From here, coming into cat back. So you're going to push into your forearms and round into the spine. Once you're rounded into the spine, what we're going to do is we're going to move the head and shoulders forward without lifting the forearms off the mat. So stay in that rounded back, come back, and then move forward, and see if you can find that stretch into the neck, the trap muscles, the rhomboid muscles, and easing back. And the more that you lift and round into the spine, the more you feel the stretch. It's also a great way to kind of test the range of motion that's available for the shoulders as well. As you feel the shoulders going past the elbows. It requires some strength. So there's a dual purpose. You're getting stretch, you're getting some strengthening. Staying in that rounded back just for a couple more times. We go back and forth. And noticing if your deltoids, your shoulder muscles, starting to get a little bit fatigued here. That's okay. We want to build strength. And let's come back and easing yourself out of this position, back into tabletop. Nicely done. From here, we're going to take that left foot, swing it forward, bringing it onto the mat, coming into position where both your legs are pretty much at 90 degrees. We're going to pick up the right foot here, pivoting on the knee and planting that foot behind the mat. All right, beautiful. From here, left elbow on your left thigh, maybe deepening the stance a little bit here. If you have the space, if this feels accessible, you're going to shift your pelvis forward. So we're going to feel that stretch through the hip area. Could be different places where you feel this, but the idea here is to lunge into that left leg forward and letting your pelvis shift slightly to the side this way. And then from here, we're gonna press into that left leg. As you take your weight onto the right side, straighten the left leg, and then turning the toes to face forward, face a little bit off to the side. It's all good. Finding your alignment here. So your right shoulder, right hip, and knee are in a straight line. Left leg is straight. The bottom of that foot is on the mat. Let's bring the left hand around the back, right arm reaching up, draw the shoulders down the back, looking up. And then with the exhale, folding to your left side here. Breathing all through the side body here. And this was the third type of movement that I was mentioning for the spine. Our spine can go from side to side as well. So this is the third type of movement that you want to try and incorporate into your practice on a daily basis. Inhale, coming back. From here, we're going to lift the toes and then bring that foot onto the mat, picking up the back foot, bringing that foot back onto the mat, and we transition to a low lunge here, fingers coming together on the left thigh, letting your pelvis sink as deep into the mat here as it can. If you want to bring that knee a little bit closer or that foot a little bit closer, you can. Just make sure the knee stays tracking over the ankle. Palms come together onto your chest center. Take an inhale, reach the arms up, lifting your chest and gaze up to the ceiling. From here, we're going to press into the front foot, open the arms out beside you. And as you exhale, reaching the fingertips down onto the ground to offer you support, flexing into the left ankle and toes, getting into the left hamstring and calf muscles. As you extend through your chest and chin forward, keeping that long spine, that flat back. Scissor into the hips, left hip pulls back, right hip pressing forward. Breathing here. And as you ease your way into the lunge, we're going to switch legs. So bringing that left foot back, right foot forward, and we're into a lunge. I'm going to switch sides so I can continue seeing you. From here, picking up the back foot, placing the foot on the mat behind you, right forearm, right thigh, lunging into that leg and letting your pelvis shift. And you might feel that here, your thigh bone, as you let the pelvis shift this way, the thigh bone really presses into the pelvis. Sometimes we want to create a little bit of compression, just so that when we ease out of that compression, there's a rush of blood and the muscles can get rejuvenated, getting a nice stretch as we come out of the compression. From here, pushing into that front foot, we ease our way out, straightening the right leg. And again, shifting your alignment if you need to, so that your right foot is placed firmly on the mat. The toes are out off to the side, to the front, left shoulder, left hip, left knee. Left arm reaching up to the sky, shoulders coming down the back, right hand going around to your left hip crest. Take an inhale, reach those fingers a little higher, and exhale. Shift the gaze up if that feels comfortable, and folding. And you want to be mindful here as well to not let your shoulders dip forward or back. You want to keep the shoulders on top of the hips. So really keeping the stretch into the side body here, not bringing into the lower back. On the inhale, coming back. And releasing the arms, we're going to lift up the toes on that heel and then lunge into that front leg. Bring the back foot onto the mat as you find yourself into a low lunge, fingers together on the left thigh or the right thigh. Stretching out the hip flexors. Finding your balance here, palms come together at chest center. Looking up as you lift the arms up beside you, fingers reaching to the sky. Really maximizing that space all through the front body, into the hip flexors, into the abdominal muscles. From here, as you open the arms out to the side, press into that front leg as you shift your pelvis back, and then sweep the arms down onto the floor. balancing on the fingertips, shoulders stacked over wrists, and flexing the right ankle and toes as you feel your pelvis level. Look to pull your torso out of the hips as much as you can, using each inhale to find a little bit more space. Come back into that lunge, pulling your right foot back. From here, we're going to come into half camel, shoulders, hips, knees stacked, feet are tucked under, knees are hip width distance, hands on the low back. As you push your pelvis forward, lift the chest, try to bring the elbows closer to each other behind you, lifting your chest and gaze up to the ceiling. Maybe the head drops back a little bit here as you breathe. Lengthening your tailbone down towards the mat as you push the pelvis forward. Keeping lots of space in the front and back of your torso, all through the lower back. Let's bring the right hand up to the ear. Inhale to climb up and exhale to bring both hands onto the mat. And let's neutralize the spine by coming into a rounded back position. Going back and forth while staying in that rounded back. And let's come back to neutral. With your hands on the mat here, we're going to tuck the toes under. We're going to come into a slightly shorter than usual downward dog. So I really want you to bring your heels onto the mat. And for that to happen, if you need to bring your hands a little closer, all good. So make sure the heels are on the ground. Your palms are flat. Lifting the seat up and really pushing down through the feet. From here, we're going to reach the right hand across to the left ankle as you look from underneath left armpit up to the sky. This time, the hips are facing forward and we're twisting more so in the upper part of the spine as you look to the side. Using that right hand, left leg connection to help you go deeper. And then replacing that right hand on an inhale and then reaching your left hand across. Hips stay lifted as you look from underneath the right armpit towards the ceiling, towards the sky. Keeping even pressure in both legs. Keep lifting the seat up. And then inhale to replace that hand where it was. From here, we're going to walk the hands forward, transitioning your way into a high plank, stepping your feet to the back of the mat, shoulders over wrists, heels over toes. Pulling your belly button up and in towards the spine, pushing the floor away and lifting the back of your knees to the ceiling. Let's hold this high plank, finding strength through the whole body, keeping your head in line with the spine as well, not letting your head dip forward. From here, we're going to transition into a chaturanga. If you want to bring your knees down onto the mat, you can. If you want to skip chaturanga, that's an option as well. If you're ready for chaturanga on the exhale, bend the elbows. Inhale, sweep up through the chest, open up the shoulders, and then exhale to lift the seat, tuck the toes, looking from in between your thighs. Coming into downward facing dog. Let's pedal the feet here. Getting a stretch for the calf muscles. Moving your hips from one side to the other. Finding stillness in downward dog. We're going to bend the knees, look ahead, and as you exhale, making your way to the front of the mat. As you get there, feet are hip width distance apart. Take an inhale, lift up halfway, flat back, hands pressed against the shins, shoulders pulling away from the ears. Chin slightly tucked in towards your throat. Exhale to bend the knees, round the spine. Uttanasana, passive forward bend. Take an inhale, come up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana. On the next breath in, pressing through your feet, root to rise all the way up to standing. Reaching up through your fingertips, looking between the hands as your palms touch. And exhale to lower the hands down through chest center, finding ourselves at the top of the mat. Setting up for a sun salutation, Surya Namaskar. On an inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, hinge from the hips, folding forward all the way down. Uttanasana. Inhale, coming up halfway. Exhale to plant the palms, transitioning from here to your plank. Feel free to modify the transition as needed. We're going to go all the way to downward dog. On the exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog, your choice. And exhale, lift the seat, downward facing dog. Let's be here for 5 full breaths. Taking the inhale and lengthening. And with the exhale, settling into that space. Keep pressing down through the back of the legs, down through the heels, noticing the knees are slightly bent here, and that's okay. We want to focus on finding space in the spine, the upper body. And then while keeping that space, you can start to straighten out the legs. Shoulders moving up and away from the ears. Roll the armpits in to face each other. On the next breath in, bend the knees, looking ahead. And as you exhale, stepping, hopping, jumping your way to the top of the mat. Once you get there, come up halfway on the inhale. Releasing back on the exhale. Root to rise all the way up to standing. Palms touch, looking between the hands. And exhale, lower the hands down through center. Beautiful. We're going to continue moving through sun salutations. Surya Namaskar B on an inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, hinging from the hips, folding forward. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, plant the palms, transition from here back to your plank through to downward facing dog. Remember that you can always skip chaturanga, especially if you start to feel your body get tired, and on the way down, you start to lose control. As you get into your downward dog, on the inhale, lift the right leg up, and exhale to swing that leg forward. Bring the foot on the mat, your knee tracks over the ankle, ground the back heel, turning your left toes out to the side, setting up for warrior one, heel to heel alignment. Doesn't have to be a super deep lunge here, but you want to have your chest and hips facing forward, back leg is straight, heel pressing down, and then if you want to deepen the stance, you can. Look to lengthen down through your tailbone here, hugging your front ribs in, keeping that low belly pulled in, and fingers actively reaching up to the sky, shoulders down the back. And from here on the exhale, hinge from the hips, keep that long spine as long as you can, bringing the hands onto the mat, back heel lifts, we step back. If you want, you can lift that leg nice and high as you lower down through chaturanga. On the exhale, inhale, rising up, open up the chest, and exhale, downward dog. From downward dog on the inhale, lifting your left leg up. Exhale to bend the knees, stepping the foot onto the mat, knee tracks over the ankle, ground the back heel, turning your back toes 45. Arms reaching up to the sky, scissor into the hips here. Shoulders pulling down the back, hugging your front ribs in. As you feel your tailbone lengthen down, actively pulling the belly button right in towards your spine. Strong back leg. And sometimes we start to arch into the low back here. You want to be mindful of that and maintain strength, maintain awareness all through the spine. On the exhale, hinge from the hips, leaning your way forward, bringing the hands onto the mat, back heel lifts, and we send that foot back, choosing your transitions down. Into downward dog. Hands are shoulder width, feet are hip width distance apart. Actively look to create more space between the shoulders and the ears, and then rounding your armpits to face each other. So you're creating space, spreading your shoulder blades, breathing. On the next breath in, we bend the knees, looking forward, and exhale, stepping, hopping, or jumping your way to the top. With the exhale, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Inhale all the way up. And exhale, down. Really nice. If you want to grab a quick sip of water here, you can. We're going to start to transition towards the seated postures. Okay. Toes are turned out 45 degrees. Palms are together at chest center. And as you bend the knees from here, keeping your chest lifted, lower belly pulled in, keeping the spine in alignment, knees and toes turned out 45 degrees. And we bend the knees as we lower our weight down into Malasana. Settling into Malasana for a few moments, letting your breath settle down as well as you press your chest forward, arms pushing against the inner thighs. Beautiful. From here, let's bring the hands onto the mat. We're actually going to lift the hips up one more time, and I want to take our feet to the either end of the mat. Beautiful. And from here, we're going to exhale and bend into one knee. And then inhale, come back to center, and exhale, bend into the other knee. Now we can start off with our hands on the ground, going side to side, offering support like this. If you start to feel comfortable, you want to go a little further, you can also add in a twist for this. So as you bend one knee, you can bring the hand onto that foot, and then open the chest and reach the other arm up. Inhale, center, and exhale, same thing the other side. Moving with the breath, inhale, center, exhale to the other side. And we come back to center, hands onto the mat, heel toe your feet back in. Coming into Malasana one more time, letting your pelvis drop below the knees, palms come together at chest center. Using this as a transitional pose, bringing the hands behind the body as you bring your seat down, taking the feet a little bit wider. We're going to windshield wiper the hips side to side. Beautiful. From here, let's take our feet as wide as you can, flexing the ankle and toes back towards you. Hands can stay behind you for the moment. And I really want to focus on keeping the chest lift with the spine long here as you flex the ankle and toes back, keeping the legs grounded. Now from here, if you can hinge from the hip and fold forward, great. I don't want you to feel like you're rounding into the spine. So I'll give you an example of what the two look like. You're on your mat and you're pushing yourself forward, but your spine ends up looking like this. That's not what we want. What we want to do is try to maintain a nice flat back. And then from that flat back, hinge from the hips. Even if the movement is just up to here, that's all good. But we want to keep the spine as straight and long as we can. So you're maintaining the integrity of this pose and giving yourself space to open up. The other option as well is you can take your peace fingers, grab onto the big toes, and then notice how my knees are slightly bent here. Once I have that grip, then I can one more time start to use that push and pull within the body. So pulling with my hands and then pushing out from the heels, and then using that counter resistance to help to extend my chest and my chin forward so I can keep that long spine. Again, lots of different variations, finding what works for you, what feels accessible, yet challenging. Coming back to your breath, coming back to your intention. And then easing your way out of your chosen variation, bringing the hands behind the body. From here, we're going to bend the right knee first. As you bend the right knee, bringing the foot into the inner thigh. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing this stretch, so you can find the variation that feels best. But for now, I want to work on having our chest rotate towards your bent knee. So there's a variation in which your chest rotates towards your straight knee, but I want to go on the other side. So your chest rotates towards the bent knee. Your arm that's away from the front leg reaches up, and we're going to fold to the side. Now you can take that other hand, the left hand, and grab hold of the big toe with the peace fingers. Keep rotating your chest away from the straight leg towards the side, towards the sky, and your upper arm reaching forward towards the front foot. And this is a nice stretch for the side body here. At the same time, it's a hip opener for the bent knee as well. So you're keeping that knee on the mat. It can also be a bit of a hamstring and calf stretch for the straight legs. So lots going on here. Stay with the breath. Keep pulling the shoulders away from the ears. Keep the spine long, the sides of the torso long as well. And inhale, coming out. Beautiful. Let's switch sides. Extending your right leg to the side, bending the left knee, and planting the foot onto the inner thigh. Now we rotate the chest towards the bent knee, keeping both sit bones on the mat as well. Something I mentioned last time. You don't want to have your weight on one sit bone. Both sit bones down. Left arm reaching up, right hand grabs hold of the big toe. And just noticing how this side feels. Inhale, coming out. Bringing the hands behind the body. We're going to bend both knees, plant the feet, mat width distance. Let's do another windshield wiper. Beautiful. And from here, we're going to extend the legs out in front of us. Sitting in Dandasana, chest is lifted, core is active, feet are flexed back. Inhale, reach the arms up and look to hinge from the hips. Again, you can bend the knees a little bit if you need to here, but keep that spine long as your hands find any part of your leg that's accessible. And then start to pull with your chest and your chin forward. Breathing through the stretch all through your back body in Paschimottanasana. Seated forward fold. Easy breath. We start to let go of the feet or the legs, walking the hands behind the body, fingers face forward, walk the feet together, toes are pointed. We're going to lift up the hips and chest, opening up the front body here. Purvottanasana, reverse plank. And then easing your seat down onto the mat. From here, we can come down onto the mat. You can make that transition happen however you want to. If you want to grab hold of your thighs, come into Navasana, knees back. You can also straighten out the legs, coming into a hollow body hold. Lots of different variations to ease your way down. Make sure you maintain control over your body. And as you find your spine, shoulders on the mat, bring the legs into your chest, wrap the arms around the shins, tuck into a tight ball. From here, coming into happy baby, knees go wide, soles of the feet face up, pressing the arms against the inner thighs as you roll side to side, drawing circles, massaging out the lower back. Beautiful. From here, we're going to transition into Shavasana. Before we do that, we're going to find a variation here with your feet at the edges of your mat, and then we're going to let the knees drop in towards each other. So your feet are planted on the mat, toes are facing forward, and then the knees drop in towards each other. And this is just to bring your hips into internal rotation. We do a lot of external rotation for the hips, and this is just a way to neutralize the hips before we close out the practice for today. So you can stay like this if you want throughout your Shavasana, or you can transition out of this into your regular preferred Shavasana position at any time, but we can start here with your knees resting against each other on the mat, hips are in internal rotation, and then the arms can be open beside the body with your palms turned up, or you can rest your hands on the chest and belly. Look to keep your lower back resting on the mat as much as you can. starting to find your way towards stillness. Finding that quiet place inside you. Feeling your breath and your heartbeat slow down. Feel your body get heavier as you release the grip of your muscles. And letting your eyes and your tongue drop back in the sockets. Allow the benefits of your practice to sink in as your body and mind drift away into Shavasana. And start to bring awareness to your breath once again. Feeling the rise and fall of your chest. As you feel your body coming back, introducing movement to the fingers and toes. Into the ankles and wrists. Just like that, the sun come out. As you bring your feet together, point the toes, reach the arms up overhead. Getting into a nice big stretch for the whole body. The left hand onto your belly button, bend the knees. We're going to turn over onto our right side here, using the right arm as a pillow. Pausing here, perhaps to reflect on your practice, to reflect on your intention if you set one today. If you're ready from here, we're going to come up, transitioning your way into a comfortable seat with the eyes closed, and palms together at your chest center. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yo nah prachodayat. The light within me salutes the light within you. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining in for today's practice. And I'll see you on your mat the next time. Thank you.